I don't even know what we're talking about today. So,
All right. Well, welcome everybody. We're excited today. We have Kelly and Jessica with us. Kelly, I'm going to let you introduce yourself because I feel like I couldn't even begin to give you justice. And then we'll have Jessica,
high praise.
who I just met today and already love. So can't wait to hear about that. And so give us a quick intro, where you are, what you do there, and then we're going to, dig a little deeper onto how you got to where you are.
Great. Kelly Mann, I work at Cushman Wakefield, and I am actually a workplace strategist and change management specialist.
Sounds like a bullshit corporate job.
It does sound like that, but it's actually really important, and we'll get into why it is really important.
I love that.
Is that offensive that I said that?
It is not. Most people do feel that way until they need me.
It's like one of my friends just lost his job at the aforementioned offline company, and they restructured him and gave him a new job. That's what they do so that they can ruin your life.
Yes.
And I think his role is like op model implementation, which clearly has no key performance indicators whatsoever because you can't gauge that. So
yeah.
Well, then you define your own success.
right.
Yeah,
right.
I like
There you
that.
go.
Constantly
Kind of a win.
winning.
Yeah, just a win.
And then we have Jessica. So
Yes.
Jessica, introduce yourself and tell
Yes,
us a little bit about what you do at Cushman and Wakefield.
Yeah, Jessica Howe with Cushman Wakefield. I am our Vice President of Global Growth Verticals. Follow that title.
Can you say that again?
Vice President of Global Growth Verticals, or you can call it practice groups. So essentially what I do within the organization is think through different industries and asset types in commercial real estate and help us figure out how should we go to market around those spaces and how do we connect all of our different service lines and make sure that when we solve a client's problem, we're thinking through it through the lens of that industry or asset type and not trying to put a one-size-fits-all approach to the client.
Scalability.
Yeah. So really
Scalability.
meeting our clients where they are and speaking
That's
the same
such a
language.
corporate phrase.
Yeah.
Let's meet the clients where they're at, Brendan.
Yep.
At the intersection
Don't you just
of
lease property?
at the intersection of you.
Aren't you
and
just
them.
realtors?
No.
Commercial real estate is a full service real estate firm across all the different service
What does
lines.
that mean?
Capital markets, so buying and selling buildings,
Okay.
leasing, so
Yeah.
representing occupiers, putting them into buildings, representing landlords, leasing the buildings. We have project and development services, so building out spaces when you move into it, but also helping creating master plans, full-scale developments, valuation and advisory, so valuing your properties, all of that fun stuff there. What am I missing, Kelly?
Asset management.
Asset management. So we help owners run and manage the buildings.
Oh.
Everything from cleaning the buildings to energy audits, looking at the ESG perspective on the buildings to help them, fulfill their investor requirements.
We talking solar today?
Oh, maybe. I thought she said MSG, and I thought we were
Yeah.
going to talk about Chinese food, and I got all excited.
We're
that
actually-
reminds me, retail. We have a really strong retail
Yeah.
platform.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mixed use.
Yeah.
Restaurants?
Yeah.
Restaurants. So we have our
Percentage of revenue.
PSC, so large volume restaurants that have lots of different locations throughout the country and the world, and we're
Like the
global
Cheesecake
office.
Factory.
I don't know if
I don't know if they still have a lot of locations.
Oh, there's one at the
Yes.
Chestnut Hill Mall.
Oh,
Yeah.
their
Yeah,
menu
so-
is 78 pages long, so
Yeah.
I think they're going to go out of business due to food costs.
I don't think so. Have you seen America?
I know.
Hold
It's a
on,
lot.
hold on. Just quick poll of the table. When was the last time you ate at the Cheesecake Factory?
Oh, decades.
I don't think we're their demographic, first of all.
I actually got a piece of cheesecake there last week for my daughter.
That's okay.
Ooh.
But you didn't eat there.
Did
No.
you get it
No,
DoorDash?
Listen,
No, but we did pick it up and bring it home.
I think
If
it was
you're-
before Bernie Madoff.
if you're going, see, they should be out of business
Yeah.
because a long time ago you would eat there a lot because it was kind of cool for a minute. Linda's fudge cake on the menu, dope. Pick it up.
Oh,
I
we'll
liked
check
the
that out.
the egg roll sort of things, like their appetizer. We used to get
We're back on the eating there.
yeah.
train.
Well, I didn't.
We were
eat
on
there.
cheesecake.
We got it like delivered.
They had good cocktails.
Yeah.
I liked their bar.
They have a lot of cocktails.
Yes.
They have a lot of choices.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably too many.
Too many.
Yeah.
So maybe not
Rest
them,
in
but that
peace,
kind
Cheesecake
of
Factory.
Yes, that kind of.
And then
Yeah.
all these verticals, you
Yeah.
sort of work in all of them, or you have a specific vertical.
So I work in all of them. So across geographies, across service lines, across verticals, we have a focus globally on logistics, industrial, multifamily, and then life sciences and healthcare. So thinking from a global perspective, how do we connect us? And then within the Americas, there's a smaller subset that I focus on. That's life sciences, healthcare, data centers, and a couple other areas. So legal
Those are
sector.
profitable, right? Like data centers.
No one knew what a data center was until the pandemic hit, and then your Netflix had to buffer, and kids found out what buffering was, and so now everyone knows a data center now.
Yeah, buffering.
AWS.
Yeah, not great.
Oh, well, isn't that Amazon Web Services?
It is.
Yeah, they have lots of data centers.
Yes.
They probably do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool. And then Kelly,
Yes.
you,
Are you guys uncomfortable yet?
yeah.
Not yet.
Oh, good.
All right,
I
cool.
mean, we're
early.
in commercial real estate.
Yeah,
Like,
it's true. It's true, yeah.
there's a lot that comes at us.
I'm excited to talk about commercial real estate and multifamily today.
Yeah.
You mentioned
All the thing, like I
Mention
love
that.
all of it.
we've been calling for
Apocalypse.
a commercial apocalypse for the better part of 9 months.
Yeah. We're just
We
glad
actually-
that
and-
people are starting to like.
Well, what's cool is
Also
we can
talk about
we can
it.
actually prove it. We can go back.
Yeah, we
in
have
the, in the record.
we have the tapes.
We have the tapes. It's
We
on
have the
it's on
tapes.
spot on the Spotify.
Yeah.
And we can prove that.
It's
I
like
think
Whitney
in-
Houston with the receipts. Show me the receipts.
I gotta be honest with you. I have no
That's
idea
a
what you're talking.
reference.
Oh, when
That is a
when
reference, my
Diane
friend.
Sawyer asked her if she did crack, and she
What
said
year did this happen?
like 1987.
Yes.
And
I
she was
was-
like,
I
"Show
was-
me the receipts, Diane. Show
was
me
2.5
the
years old.
receipts."
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, you got to just do a YouTube search for "Show me the receipts."
you think it's on YouTube?
Oh, I know it's on YouTube
You
because
think-
I
why?
have
'Cause
watched it.
someone had their over-the-shoulder video camera with them for this.
Diane did.
Anywho,
I think I saw her one day at Olive Garden, which might be in that
Whitney
vertical
Houston.
too.
Diane
Who was
Sawyer?
it?
No, Whitney Houston. So we were at Olive Garden in South Bay.
Welcome to the Word Podcast.
And I swear Whitney was in there, and then she died like a year and a
With
half
her
later.
husband, her
No,
ex-husband?
but with I think
Whitney
one
Houston's
of Bobby.
dead.
Yeah,
Yes.
and so is Bobby Christina.
Yeah, yes.
It's been like
Don't know who that is.
tragic. That was
her
her,
daughter.
only child.
Yeah.
Did you,
You obviously didn't
can we
watch
move
the
on?
biopic. Yeah, we're
The what?
moving on.
the
It's
biopsy?
also our age. Like, we know this stuff.
Yeah, we're a little older than him.
We are.
Not by much.
You guys are, I think,
So-
closer in age.
Who's Whitney Houston?
Yes.
I'm kidding. I know.
She died. She died in a skiing accident, right?
No, a bathtub
Yeah.
at the Beverly Hills Hotel, like Beverly Hills Hilton.
Her daughter also died in a
Sounds like-
bathtub.
Yes, they both.
They both died in a bathtub. Okay, let's move on.
Hold on.
It's separate.
It's separate incidents.
Like
There's-
years apart.
Years apart.
There's two reasons someone dies in a bathtub.
Which would be.
Well, one is like the classic: you drop the toast, you bring the toaster in.
That
Nope,
was-
I
that
think
was
this
not
one-
theirs.
We're
Do
not
you
talking.
think
We're
that-
not talking
Queen-
that way,
Do you
right?
think
No.
that happens often?
No,
Is that a
oh,
good
no,
sign?
Not
but
enough.
I feel like if you've watched
Yeah.
any movies, that's how people die in
Yeah,
bathtubs.
they just, yeah.
This
That-
was
that is-
Quaaludes, I think.
This is Quaaludes. Yeah, this was
By the way-
Quaaludes and wine.
Yeah.
By the way, that might
Yeah.
be the number.
Yeah.
That might be
That's the
number
number
two.
two. Yeah.
Okay.
Like
I
nothing
just-
like a bubble bath.
I just
of
wanted to really
Quaaludes.
clear up the types of bathtub deaths that we were talking about first.
It's the number two one that we
Yeah.
will discuss.
Show
I
me
guess
the
there's probably a
receipts.
small
Yeah, show me the
subset of
receipts.
small children drowning, maybe, but
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't like
we
to-
just went dark.
I don't
Yeah.
want to talk about
So
Let's
so
move on.
anyhow,
So
that's not
let's-
one of the
Yeah, it's
verticals.
not one of
that
the
Cushman
By the
is
way-
in.
We don't focus on that at Cushman
We
Wakefield.
don't.
Just
We were
very-
talking about this-
Hotel.
We do have a hotel focus.
We were talking about this because
She can tell you everything we focus
we
on.
were excited for the commercial real estate
Yeah,
collapse.
so-
which
so
we
excited.
shouldn't actually be excited about. We were just excited that we were right
Yeah.
about it,
Oh, okay.
and somehow we ended up drowning in a bathtub.
Yeah.
I know. Well,
So, can you guys just quickly tell us? It might be too soon for this. What the F is going on in commercial real estate right now?
Jessica, you have thoughts on that I don't have.
Are we worried?
I would say we are not worried.
Who is we?
Me, my personal thoughts and opinions.
Not the opinions of Cushman
the
and
opinions,
Wakefield.
yeah,
These
not
are the
opinions.
opinions focused on this show are solely the opinions of the guests
Yes.
and not the organizations from which they come
What a
from.
legal
Thank you for that.
decision.
Is that going to be on the screen?
Yeah.
We can do that.
Yeah.
Flashing.
I think that obviously there has been a change in commercial real estate. It is different than what it was pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
I think that
Not going back?
Yeah, I don't think it's going back to the same way, and in a positive way.
Yeah.
I think that people realize they can have autonomy and be successful at work.
Yeah.
I do think there is a place for the office, but I think the one thing that is changing is the approach to what that looks like and what that means and
Is
why
that where
you
Kelly
go
comes in?
And that is where Kelly comes in, helping leadership focus and finding their journey and saying, instead of presenting a mandate, why would someone come in? And then what does that then have an impact on your real estate utilization, how much you need, where you need it, that type of stuff.
So are we seeing space decrease, like the amount of space needed per company decrease, and like just making it cooler? Or like what's the draw for an employee to come into the office?
So we are seeing some decrease in space, but I think what's an important thing to know, and Brendan, you would have remembered this,
Maybe.
which is we were never 100% utilizing space. We were
Nobody
always
is.
around 70%, right? So this thought that we needed to have a seat for everybody really came into
fiction.
It is fiction, because it came into really how folks managed. So I, as a manager, manage by site, and I see you at your desk and you're doing work, therefore you're productive. We know that's not the case anymore.
Right.
And now that we have 4 generations in the workplace, and
Do we hate the ones under millennials?
What's under a millennial?
Like the
Gen Z,
24-year-olds?
Gen something.
Yeah, we don't hate them. They're
we
becoming the
wanna
largest
firebomb them?
workforce. They're
Yeah.
becoming the largest workforce we're going to have, and they've made the decision that they're not going to work in the traditional way.
Yeah.
Like I said, can we hate them?
No.
I'm jealous of them.
I am
I'm
too,
jealous
yeah.
that they grew up with that ability and confidence to
flexibility.
say, no, this is who I am and this is what I want. This
Right.
is what you're going to need to give to me, as opposed to when I took a job, it was, this is your job. This is what you do. You just do it.
Right, and you're here 5 days a
Yeah.
week, and
Yeah.
you're here at 8 a.m. and you leave at 6 p.m.
I mean,
Wait, people don't do that?
no.
clearly,
No.
clearly, tech advances play a huge role. The pandemic was the shove,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
even what we're doing right now. I mean, I guess we would have done this 20 years ago, but you can't. I am significantly more productive in Zoom meetings than I am in person.
Yes.
So there's a blend, and I think about, we were talking offline, like I used to literally leave Tuesday morning, go to upstate New York to visit people in person, spend all that money, flight, drive, renting a car, travel, meals, hotel,
Yeah.
to do a 4-hour job that very easily could have probably been done surgically, virtually, and probably would save a company tons of money.
And we've seen that. But what's interesting is there's a recognition by leadership of getting folks together. So I have worked with companies that have said, we are going to reduce our square footage, but that means we're going to take money and put it into our budget to have 4 offsite quarterly meetings where we fly folks in, because coming together is important. The frustration I see is when I hear a leader say, the only way to really collaborate is in person. That's bullshit.
Yeah, I agree.
Because technology can do that.
Yeah.
But the only way to really get to know people
Yeah.
and understand what's happening in a room when you're not with them. So if I'm on a call with Jessica, because I've spent so much time with her, I can hear if there's a problem.
Yeah.
Or if she is going in a certain direction. If I didn't spend time with her personally, I wouldn't know that.
Right.
So teams coming together in person is important, but that idea of one-to-one seating, the idea that being productive only happens in the office is a myth, and we should
I
be
agree.
leaning into how do folks work best in the role that they have.
Yeah. Well said. How much do you think that companies, this is a probably a weird statistic to ask, are actually, like, by percentage downsizing their physical footprint?
I don't know if you saw the numbers, Jessica.
No.
I think what we saw was about 30%.
Yeah.
Once in a while, we'll get a
sounds
company
right.
who will come in and say, I want to, if they're just looking at the numbers, I want to slash it by 50%. That,
Yeah.
just looking at the numbers doesn't do it, because believe it or not, we do a lot of surveys, and folks will say, even if I'm a full remote employee, I want to know that there's a space I can go
Right.
into.
Right.
It makes it real.
Yeah.
it makes a company really exist for folks.
Well, there are things that you can't do remotely that you can do in person. And there's a lot of focus on industries like the legal sector, right? Where if you are a new associate, you really need FaceTime with that partner to learn and to grow and understand the business.
Sure.
And that's never going to change, and that's not going to go
Never
away.
changing.
And you're never going to get a partner to spend an hour on Zoom with you to get to know them, right? And
Right.
so that type of relationship,
Not even in real life.
right?
I know.
Yeah. So that type of usage
It's like
for the
6
offices are
minutes
there.
here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you got to bill by the hour, man. 6 minutes. That's like what, $1,000?
Well, we're more transactional, so we are moving away from hourly billing to transaction billing.
That's
But
Yeah.
that was a good cover.
it was. I
Sounds like
try
we have-
never to
sounds
bill
like there's
by
a
the
revenue
hour.
problem over it.
And there's other things, life sciences, we know lab
Yeah.
work.
Got to be
Well, you
first.
can't do that in
has-
your basement?
You can't do it in your
Well,
basement.
you can. I think that's
That's
the
called
wrong
meth.
lab.
That might have been the problem.
That's a
That's the
different-
wrong.
that's a
lab
different kind of
scene.
lab
That's
work.
residential
Yeah.
real
Yeah.
estate.
Oh,
But if
Yeah.
we're talking about life sciences, we know that's important, but we also know that when folks are done with that lab work, they can go off site and do their write-up. Some of them don't want to,
Yeah.
but some do. And we worked with,
That's interesting.
before the pandemic, we actually worked with a life sciences company on the West Coast that was starting to do that. And they were like, they don't want to be here after they've been in the
Sure.
lab. They want to go home.
Yeah.
But even
Let
those
them do
lab
that.
workers want, you can't change the true dynamics of what a lab looks like, right? There's
Right.
certain things you have to
You
have in
have
there,
to have.
but you walk into that lab and you still want the same thought put to your space as someone who's working in the back of the house offices, right? You want to feel like someone has thought through your perspective and feel like you're part of the bigger team.
Yeah.
Right.
now Boston, heavy life sciences, right? So are we more well positioned than other metros in terms of having our commercial real estate, stay relatively healthy moving forward versus, I don't know, Kansas City, right? That probably has a lot more office, not as diversified, big telecom companies and other corporate-y stuff out there. So is life sciences going to be the salvation for Boston?
No.
No. Okay, I love it. Why not?
Tell us
So
more.
I would say if I was Michelle Wu or any person in charge
You
I
brought it
know
up.
I had to, or anyone who was in charge. Ideally, you would look at your commercial real estate and you would have a well-diversified asset class, right?
Sure.
You would understand that some of them are going to have. I mean, if you think about commercial real estate, the tax revenue associated with those
It's incredible.
it's huge, right? And so you should look at a diversified portfolio and say this is really the optimum thing of what we should have, right? Because you never want to rely on one sector. Because if you look at life sciences right now, Boston has a ton of life sciences in the development, right? There's only so much need right now. People are subleasing space, companies are merging. We're seeing the VC funding that reached an all-time high in 2021 kind of pull
Gone.
back to normal. Still super high levels, but more in line with what 2019 was. And so they're still growing, they're still changing, but it's slowed down. So companies who are putting too much money into life sciences who didn't think that was going to happen are probably now kind of regretting those decisions.
Interesting.
But if you were a company who understood the life sciences sector, you had a long history in this, you probably made smarter decisions than some of the companies who just saw it as an opportunistic value. So while I don't think it's going to be the savior of Boston, I do think that it provides an additional layer of security that some markets wouldn't have. Although I would argue Kansas City would probably tell you that they also are a life sciences market because I just
made up Kansas
I
City
just had
as like a
phone call.
random
Yeah.
city.
Had a call last week about Kansas City and a life sciences development going in there and how do they support that?
Are they going to grow better steak?
I don't think you could grow better steak. It's pretty good as is.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's true.
they were like really a food services
Yeah.
location for a long time. What are the three markets, Jess, that are life sciences focused? Boston,
So we consider five. Boston, Raleigh, Philadelphia, San Diego, and San Francisco. And that's where the majority of life sciences in the United States and probably the world is focused on.
Interesting. So one of the things I read, speaking of Michelle Wu, was that we in Boston need to be careful about our view on development, housing, and making sure that we don't create an environment like San Francisco where housing is so unaffordable and people are becoming more able to work remotely and leaving in droves. And I think that we're starting to see a lot of defaults in office in San Francisco. Are we at risk of becoming sort of in the same boat as San Francisco? Do you see that on the horizon?
Nah.
I don't think we're big enough to have
we're too
to
small.
fall in that same boat. But it's an interesting conversation, right? Because I think what the pandemic showed us was that some of our lower earning positions that couldn't afford to live in the city and had long commutes that cost them, I don't know, $15 to park, take a commuter rail, get on the train to come downtown, could work from home. So if you work from home 3 days a week, you save how much money do you save? And so it's an interesting conversation to think about what does that housing look like and what do we need to facilitate and support those type of roles in the city.
So you talked about the speculative nature of life sciences. Another area I think we've seen a lot of speculative development is in multifamily.
Yeah.
It sounded like that was one of your verticals that you work in as well. We're in East Boston, which is growing exponentially.
Crazy, yeah.
And Revere is right next door, and my office is in Lynn. So
Also growing.
Tons of multifamily. What is your firm seeing in the multifamily world?
We've seen a lot of I don't say conversions because that's probably not the right word, but a lot of our multifamily has been trading hands and changing usage and changing so for example. Near Harvard's campus, they had a couple buildings that were owned by the university. And so to get more revenue stream or whatever their purpose was, they sold those, and those are all being converted into multifamily units in a place like Harvard or Cambridge where you have some need there. So I think that Boston has a great opportunity. I think that personally, the ideas around luxury housing. I live in Charlestown. I live in an old 2-family in Charlestown. If you built a luxury condo building in Charlestown, I wouldn't move into it, right? And so I think Boston has a unique perspective on.
It super doesn't fit there.
Yeah, but Boston has a unique perspective on how our
Flagship
housing.
Wharf.
Yeah.
I want to live there. They have a gym.
You don't count.
They have parking.
Sir.
They have a concierge.
Sir, you do not count in that
I don't even have a
conversation.
car. I don't need parking. I need laundry.
Right.
I bet the concierge could coordinate laundry pickup.
Probably walk my dog too.
We'll let the dog walk
So
her
you
in.
think the focus is on high end?
Yeah, I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's typically what I think gets the funding, and it's going to be the build out cost to do that multifamily is going to need a luxury high end to be able to
Agreed.
rationalize that.
But more
investment.
rentals, right? Because no one wants to lend money on
Yeah.
for 2 years to build a big condo
Right.
building, right? Like they want to have that money held up for 10 years.
Yeah.
So I don't see it in the condo market, but definitely in the apartments and
Yeah, agree.
Do you think a lot of the stuff's changing hands just because people? Well, first off, I think the asset class is owned, like for a longer term, a lot of the times, correct?
For multifamily?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I just think there's a lot of people who are worried about their financing coming due and adjusting, right? Like, again, Brendan already mentioned, like we bought this place, different story. Our interest rate's crazy. It is what it is. But there's property that I bought years ago that like it doesn't work at 7%.
Right.
So like it's by definition on a short leash, right? So like are you seeing that stuff change hands proactively, or do you think that my understanding is there's a large sum of notes that are due to re-amortize like this fall-ish?
Yeah,
Right.
Cushman Wakefield came out with a obsolescence report. Can you remember the full name
What a
of
great
that?
I
word.
don't remember it, but
Obsolescence
I wanna-
equals opportunity.
We
I
can
believe
send it to
is what
you.
it was.
we
Really,
love
really
the
great
sound
piece.
of that.
I know
Yeah.
you
I
would.
want to make my
Yeah.
own obsolescence.
I want to make opportunity from other people's obsolescence.
Well, and that's
what it is.
That's
Yeah.
essentially
That's
what
what
the
it
point of
is.
the articles, right? They talk about how all of these notes are coming due. Some of those assets aren't going to be worth enough to have someone invest into it. And so what do you do with your Class B and D properties
Well,
to make
and-
it actually valuable? And so distressed assets is a huge topic of conversation right now.
Yeah.
Well, and this is where Michelle Wu's plan comes in terms of converting unused Class B and
Yeah.
C and D office space into housing. But, I just don't see how that flies.
Well, it's a little bigger too than just let's take those buildings and do that. So if you look at it strategically, it's also this thought process of if we bring people back downtown, does it help a downtown thrive?
Sure.
So I don't know what your experiences were coming back, but Jessica and I, when we came back, so we're in
We
the
never
financial-
left.
Okay. So
But your
What's
lunch
COVID?
restaurant was gone.
lunch restaurants
Yeah.
are gone,
Yeah.
right? So you have lunch restaurants are gone. It can-
Radius closed years ago.
I know. It was very sad. Dinner places. So you really have
Did Whitney
folks.
Houston go there?
She would have if she was in town.
She would have.
They had the best burger ever.
But these are really other concerns that this idea of it's not just vacant buildings. It's can we bring folks back? It goes to Jessica's point of there are people who had to travel way out, 90 minutes to 2 hours out because they couldn't afford to live here, to have jobs,
Right.
to make more money. If they can afford to live here and have jobs to make more money, how much more will they spend in our city?
Yeah.
So it's a bigger look at it. And there's actually a lot of local business leaders who have tried to get together to figure out how do we bring folks back to help support that. We are in an interesting position
Does
in
closing
Boston.
the tunnel and making the
does
subway
not
not
help.
work,
I think
does
it,
that
I think
help?
it helps. I think it helps. Also, not having happy hour, that also helps. Really
Yeah.
great things.
Yeah,
Hello,
great
Massachusetts.
I mean, the MBTA alone is a problem that we need to
Yeah.
fix to bring people back. I live in Watertown. Jessica and I were talking about this. It can take me 90 minutes to take a train, take the train, and get in, and
That
it's
makes-
7 miles.
That makes no sense.
Makes no
It took
sense.
Andrew 2 hours the other day to get in from Nahant, which is like
Right.
12 miles
Yeah,
from
that's
South
wild.
Boston.
Right. And I like going into an office space. My job
Same.
is connecting with people. If they don't see me, they don't trust me, they don't like me. Brendan's rolling his eyes. He's like,
I'm
this
loving
has been
every
your
minute of
life.
it, right.
This is your life. But, asking people to make that commute. So when we do our surveys, the number one complaint we'll get is commute. And that is really relative to everyone. So if someone has a 5-minute commute, which I would love, and it goes to 10 minutes, they're like, screw you. Why would I do a 10-minute commute? It was 5 minutes before. This is a really big issue for folks, and our MBTA is not helping it.
Yeah. Well, if you just think about the productivity time, like commuting is hours of non-productive time
Yes.
that I can very simply sit in my PJs at home and actually be productive and get work done.
Right.
As long as I don't have to meet somebody face to face, right? And so now I'm ahead of the in-person workforce. And I personally think when I work from home, I am so much more productive than when I'm here, right? Because here there's
Because
distractions.
no one's bothering you.
Yeah, we're yucking it up. We're ordering lunch, whatever. And so it's funny, when we truly need to get stuff done, there's a laundry list of work. I'll spend the morning at home and crush it.
Yeah. And we
You
hear
know?
that from a lot of people, and that's their preference. And we've watched folks try to figure out how to bring people back into the office.
It's
And
so hard.
we worked with a company, and he was like, I know the number one thing is food, but I offered free lunch one day, and people literally drove in 30 minutes, took the lunch,
Right.
What
got
was
in
the
their car,
lunch? What'd they
and
have
then
for
drove
lunch?
away.
Sushi.
Yeah.
I don't even know
And
what
food
it was.
poisoning.
And food poisoning.
Yeah.
But, it's...
I'll be out for a few days.
But, workers aren't stupid. They
No.
understand what does it mean to be productive? What does work-life balance look like?
Right.
And if you want me to come in, why do you want me to come in? Just be very specific and transparent about it. I want you to come in to get together with people, to get to
Right.
know your coworkers.
Right.
That's different.
Is there
than saying-
value in that?
There is value in
100%.
that.
Collaboration.
What's the value?
So there's a trust factor if
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be building a team. So Jessica and I work with a lot of different groups. I will tell you that brokers, and I would say this for residential and commercial, spend a lot of time building a network. They're working with people that they've known for years. They are not going to bring someone in who's going to screw that up. So if they don't know how you are, how you behave, what you're going to be like in front of, they're not going to introduce you to a client.
Super guarded.
Super guarded.
Does your company charge for your services?
We do.
Oh, okay. So
We
you're
do.
kind of like a salesperson.
Well, they would like to be more of a salesperson.
She
They'd like me
provides
to
a
do that.
product.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I provide a
Right.
product.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A very
Yeah.
valuable product.
It is a
sounds
valuable
like.
product to some people.
Yeah, like
Other people think
neurodiversity.
it's other people think it's bullshit.
Oh,
It's a
no.
little bullshit. It's
It is a little
bit
bullshitty.
actual.
It is.
I spend a lot of money on bullshit though.
I know
so
you do.
like
It's
please
perfect
tell us
for
more.
you.
Yeah, tell us more about the bullshit.
I don't know if I love that lead in.
Okay, tell us
Brendan.
more
should
about
put
the
that-
services.
So-
You should put that on your name tag.
Yeah, I love
Tell
bullshit.
us more about bullshit. We offer a lot of different services, but really what we're talking about is engagement with employees. Because a company can't be successful if they don't understand what their baseline with employees is, right? So a lot of times we'll get CEOs and CFOs who will be like, well, I think they're not doing it because of this. I think they're not doing it because of that. And then you meet with the employees and you do a focus group or you do a survey and you find out it's actually none of those things, right? It's something entirely different. But really what we're looking to do is get into what someone's culture looks like. What kind of culture is it? So are they in a change mindset? Are they in a growth mindset? Are they in a stagnant mindset? And then that allows you to figure out the business decisions that you need to make, which might mean bringing new talent in or developing the talent you have, or you're ready to take that next step as a company.
So this goes far deeper than physical space.
It goes
like
far
you're
deeper.
a very involved consultant. It sounds like.
Yeah. So you'll do a focus group and you'll ask people questions that they don't
What
always
What
like.
if you don't care about the answers?
Well, then you wouldn't be in workplace strategy.
Yeah,
which
and
means
then
okay.
do
you implement mandates for
Then
people
you
having to come back to
yes.
office, and you have 10% of your workforce
Yeah.
quit because you're not actually meeting them where they are.
Yes.
You ready for this one? And then you write things on the whiteboard in the hallway.
Yeah.
I
You
got
wouldn't
yelled
be
at
good
for
at this.
whiteboard.
You wouldn't be good
etiquette.
at this. What did you write?
So
What-
can I tell the story?
Yes, you
Did
can
you
tell
tell
the
someone
story.
It's
Did you?
no. I think it's actually much worse than
Oh
that.
God! Also
So
not surprising.
I have something hanging behind my desk which I have to Google because I can't remember all of the things, and it'll just be better if I
It's
have
the
it.
10 things that take zero talent.
Correct. But
Oh,
I
God,
want.
those are probably our jobs, Kelly. Those are probably all the
But
things
no,
we do.
but it's a.
You're scaring me.
No. It's a really good. It's a really good poster, because I also am a culture guy at heart.
Mm-hmm.
So my computer's freaking out right now, so please hold on one second. So, because I want to make sure I just quickly read them off. We've done this a few times, and it's always good.
And I was very motivated by this, right?
He loved
like
the post.
I love
He
it.
loved it.
Did you love it? Or
I did.
you do
No,
that
I did
thing
love it.
where
I
you
loved
say
it
you
like
love
numerous times.
Okay.
Okay, so I have it framed.
Mm-hmm.
It's branded, right? Like we put our own logo on it. Being on time, work ethic, effort, body language, energy, attitude, passion, being coachable, doing extra, and being prepared. Right? It's a motivational poster.
Was there a waterfall behind that?
No, it's just
Kitten hanging from the branch.
yeah.
Hanging
There's some seancing and stuff. And so Brendan really liked it, so he went and wrote it on the whiteboard in his office.
Like in a hallway.
Super passive aggressive.
Yeah.
That is super.
And my
passive
business
aggressive.
partner
Very
was
passive
like,
aggressive.
this is not motivating. Like, we need to get rid of it. He was in like some fellowship at Harvard, and like
Well, it's
they were
just
going
funny,
through this
like,
thing, and he came in one day and
context.
he's like, not motivational.
Context is everything.
It matters, right? So
Yeah.
like, we used to always joke at Best Buy, like when you had an important change, like the joke was like, don't go post it on the hub fridge. The hub is the break
Yeah.
room. Right, like you can't just like post cultural memos like on the
Yeah, you
on the
cannot
fridge.
do that. It doesn't work.
No, it's like people are, did you see what's on the fucking fridge?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're
and
like,
I
this is
thought I was being
bullshit.
like,
What do you mean
Yeah.
the attendance policy changed?
Yeah.
Like the people,
Yeah,
heads
people lose
explode.
their shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that.
So
Yeah,
it's-
you needed a Kelly Mann in the
Right,
Best Buy.
right.
Yeah,
you needed
well-
someone to help you decide what is that culture. Does anyone know?
Well, I come from, the last company I was with prior to Cushman was TD Bank, and that has a very ingrained culture, especially up in Canada, right? And in fact,
A.
your Canadian experience is very different than it is in the U.S. It's fascinating, actually. And they were very thoughtful about how they delivered any kind of message.
Yeah, you
and it
gotta
was
be.
almost done as by consensus, which could be super frustrating because I was
Yeah.
like, what's the fucking answer? Like, do they get this or do they not get this?
Yeah.
But, culture takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
and
A lot of
you-
time to build, very
a lot of
easy
time to build.
evaporate.
It's very easy to bring. And by the way, it can be one or two people
Oh yeah.
bring a culture down if you don't have a leader
Yeah.
who
toxic.
knows how to manage that. And then, unfortunately, a lot of talent gets left behind
Yeah.
because they don't have a voice.
Yeah.
And that's
And are you their voice?
I try to encourage people.
She's my voice.
I am not. I try to encourage people to find their most comfortable place to have a voice because it looks different for everybody.
And they pay you to do this.
They pay me to do this. I know.
And this job existed. Like when you go to LinkedIn, how does one find this job?
Look up workplace strategist.
That's a real thing.
It's a real thing.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's so so impactful on your
100%.
company and your
100%.
culture, right? Like you can't just throw something out there, like you said, and expect people to follow it. They have to
It doesn't work.
Why?
Yeah.
Well, I clearly am an example of that,
Yes.
right?
It sounds like you might be in a fixed mindset.
No.
Oh my
So
God, that is such a corporate thing.
It is.
I don't know what that
Fixed
means.
mindset.
I don't know what that
Mindset.
means.
It means you're not in a
Mindset.
growth
You need to
mindset
be-
and change
Oh.
mindset, my friend.
I can call up another poster and share it with you, but
Yeah.
you'll probably
Okay.
draw it on the whiteboard.
No, I now don't draw on the whiteboard.
You are not
There's
allowed.
something on there right now that I just ignore. I don't even know what it is. It was like a question. I think it's like, what's your why?
So just
Oh my
It's a good
God, I say
question.
that. I actually
She
say
does
that
say
to
that.
people.
So
Yeah.
just to be
On the
clear,
journey.
you do this for your clients who lease or own space
Yes.
and for their companies to ensure their
Yes.
success.
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
That is
Okay.
super cool. And it's cool that Cushman is invested
It's
in
smart that
this
they do it.
and like promoting it. And it sounds like you are developing relationships with the brokers who are also buying into this as a critical
It's like a
need.
vacancy insurance policy.
Yeah.
It is. I think what's interesting, and Jessica and I have seen this sort of change,
So funny.
is that we've had brokers really come up in the business who now are like, I literally don't know what this client's talking about. Can one of you be part of this? Right?
Like old
And-
white guys.
and young white guys.
Yeah.
All the white guys.
All the
All
white
the white
guys.
guys. Yeah.
But we have a couple in our office who I would say,
A couple
you
white
know,
guys.
a couple. We have
Oh,
all
they
white
have plenty
guys.
of white guys.
But we have a couple real leaders in our office who, you know, Connor Barnes being one of them, who heads up our life sciences team, who he is a really global thinker and will be like, listen, I don't know what the hell they're talking about. Can you come in and have the
Yeah.
conversation?
I think that part of the change is if you think about technology and how that's changed literally everything, right? One day commercial real estate will probably be commoditized and it is transaction based. And so how do you provide value to an organization to rationalize those commissions?
Sure.
If a bot can essentially come up with your lease. So bringing Kelly in or
Sure.
Kelly's team into that conversation at the very beginning of it helps you create a strategy as opposed to focusing on one transaction.
Right.
And it's solving multiple problems, not just the one that you think is there. It's finding and uncovering things that, you know, you may not have realized.
We're trying to create partnerships for our clients, so it's a little less just transactional. But that can be hard for anyone who's used to being a transaction-based person. So you have to have a different mindset to understand that we bring in a lot of different services.
Well, and it's something that Seth and I talk about a lot, especially on his business, which is super transactional. Like, how do you create that ongoing relationship and how do you keep yourself in front of that client so that when the next transaction does come up, they think to call you.
Right.
They don't
Right.
forget.
As a partner.
Yeah.
You want to be a partner with your clients.
Yeah.
Well, things like, so part of what my team does is we put out a ton of thought leadership all of the time. We're constantly thinking about what statistics do people need, but what other topics are out there that we could opine on that would be impactful. And brokers who are really good at their job take the opportunities to send those to current clients that they've already put into space and say, hey, saw this, thought of you. Let's just get together and talk about what does this mean for you? There's nothing that's going to happen right away, but it's just a way to let them know that you're thinking about their business and how they're approaching their workforce.
And does that happen remotely or in person?
Depends. I think it depends.
You meet the client where they're at.
You meet them where they're at, man.
Is that a growth mindset or
It's a growth
fixed?
mindset.
That is
Okay.
Yeah.
definitely growth, yeah.
Yeah.
So can we regress slightly to multifamily collapse?
Oh, yeah.
That's all you, Jessica.
Just selfishly. No, like what's your off the record or technically on the record
Yeah. it's
prediction?
very on the record.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think's
this
gonna
is,
happen?
I will say, this is
US-wise.
multifamily is not my biggest strong suit. So
Yeah.
just take that with a grain of salt. I don't think there's a multifamily collapse on the horizon.
Encouraging.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends who you're talking about. I think that there have been a lot of investments in multifamily by massive investment organizations, a lot of which are our clients. And so I think that there has been some pushback and blowback on large conglomerates buying up single family homes and renting them out. And I think that they have not seen the returns on those investments that they anticipated.
Interesting.
Personally, as a renter, I would hope that one day those get returned to the market so individuals could achieve the American dream of owning a home. But I think
When do you see that happening?
Never.
Well, never.
Not
You
in
my
think
lifetime.
the divestment of single families from these big conglomerates?
I think
No.
that they probably had a pretty strategic timeline in place when they bought those.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it was a fairly nascent approach to the market. And so I think they're probably still trying to prove out. I mean, I'm completely blanking on the startup that was focusing on the space, Open Door or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think they filed for bankruptcy, but they stopped buying homes and started selling
They
them.
fucked up.
Yeah.
Zillow screwed it up too.
Yes. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of that, right? But
But
again,
I think it was Zillow. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Like, or it might have been Open Door. I can't remember which one, but like they literally were directionally committing fraud.
they were buying homes and then
Forcing
posting them.
comps.
Yeah.
Directionally
So I would buy-
committing fraud.
Okay, so I Open Door.
That was very corporate.
buys a house on
was.
let's call it like
Shady AF.
fake forced appreciation.
Yeah.
They would steal
Cooking the books.
it was kind of like legit though.
Why?
If
Because
I
they owned
bu-
the data aggregator that
No,
said
so
it was worth more?
if I bought a house on your street
Yeah.
for
There's one on the market.
great, how much is it?
It keeps having price drops because it came out of contract
Perfect.
because the
Open Door would
financing
love
died.
it. What's the price?
I think it went down to $8.99.
So let's say I try and buy it for $750, significantly
Yeah.
under market
Yeah.
value.
Motivated
I
sellers.
then buy one of your other neighbors' homes or something like that
Yeah.
off the market.
Yeah.
And then I buy another house down the street. And then I basically just start selling them all one by one at a significantly higher rate.
Yeah.
Once one of them sells.
Yeah. You have
It's-
comps.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so, but they were kind of like trying to buy low,
Yeah. And sell
but
high.
instead they were just buying high because
Oh.
no one was. At
That's a
least
bad
Yeah,
business
whoever
practice.
Whoever
Yeah.
ran their numbers was
Yeah.
not doing a great job.
Yeah, they were just like they were like, buy me 100 houses,
Yeah.
no problem, and they would just pay cash at over like if they paid 900 for it.
Yeah.
It was
They had
very
a
stupid.
bougie. We
But
call
I think
that
that,
a
like that's a
bougie.
startup, right? So they had
Right.
this idea, they acted on it. But if you compare that to some of the longer term investors who've been in the market for a long time, they definitely have more strategy around that.
Yeah.
And so I think people who have that experience and background are probably going to be more successful and stay in it longer than
Yeah,
those who are fairly new.
yeah.
So when you say that Cushman and Wakefield is one of their verticals is multifamily, I just have this impression of Cushman and Wakefield being like a massive company. So is it like like the Pennsylvania Teachers Union that is your client? Like who's the profile of a Cushman and Wakefield client that's in the multifamily
Yeah,
space
so-
without naming names?
So
obviously.
we are a 50,000 person global organization. I don't remember how many offices, but and in the United States we have about 39,000 employees or 29,000. I can't
a lot.
remember which numbers. It's a lot, right?
Did Kelly help design the spaces for them?
All of them. That's all she does every day.
Every day,
Um,
design the spaces.
But so our multifamily teams, we do everything from property management of actually running apartment buildings to selling and buying the real estate. So it's across
Size
the board.
limits on like what you'll manage, or is there like a cost prohibitive point?
I think it's really based on what market you're in.
Yeah.
Because we do have 39,000 employees, we're in every market from.
Someone's gonna
I
take
say
it.
Boise. I don't know where Boise is, but like
Idaho.
Boise, Idaho
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
Boston, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, I'm a trust attorney as well. I do a lot of
Yeah.
trust and estate work, and because of our real estate focus, a lot of my clients have big real estate portfolios. And one of the things that they often will ask me is like, if I die, who's going to manage these properties? So, if they have 10, 15 triple deckers, right? Like, is that a client that is a good fit for Cushman and Wakefield if it's in this metro, or is there like a threshold where it just doesn't make sense?
Yeah, I think the smallest amount I've heard of was 10 units.
Okay, 10 doors.
Yeah, 10 doors.
Yeah,
I could be
I'm
wrong.
learning the lingo.
Someone might tell me I'm wrong, but yeah, I think the 10 units, 10 doors is essentially where it is. And then I would say, so that's on the property management side, and then it's institutional investors a lot on the capital market side of the business.
And capital market means big.
Big.
Okay.
Yeah, institutional is typically 100 million or more.
So in this area, that's like 300 or 400 doors, like a big apartment building.
Yeah, I actually don't know much about this market for that
Yeah.
one. We have a big multifamily team in the Sun Belt region. That's where a lot of our activity is seen. I know we have a multifamily tier, Chris Sauer in the office.
Does the Sun Belt, does the whole belt touch each other? Or is like, what is the Sun Belt?
As a northerner, that's a great question.
Like, is it
Should I
like?
Google it?
Do you get from Arizona to Florida? Because I would think.
Basically.
I think
like,
so,
and
yeah.
it touches everything
I
on
think
the
it's
way.
Yeah.
North Carolina to Florida, Florida to Arizona, and then I don't know where.
So
that
who
goes
gives
to
a
the
shit about
Midwest.
Oklahoma? Oh wow, it's like really just the
It's-
bottom half of the
it's-
country.
Yeah.
It is.
Where it's
Why don't we
sunny.
just call it
Where
that?
it's sunny, yeah.
It's the Sun Belt.
Oh,
It's the belt around the torso
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
America.
Yeah.
that's weird. Needs to go on a diet,
Diet.
on the East Coast.
Texas is the belt buckle. Just for the record.
That's so fitting because that's the land of big belt
It is
buckles.
the land of big belt buckles.
That was fun.
Everything's bigger in Texas.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
So big Sun Belt for multifamily.
Yeah, that's where a lot of the activity is, for sure.
And then you have the top 5 markets in life sciences. What were the other verticals you were touching on?
Healthcare, data centers are two of the big ones.
Oh,
that we
data
focus
center.
on.
Let's talk about data centers. So,
Why?
because I think they're so interesting. Like,
Why do you think they're
What's
interesting?
interesting about them?
I think that they can be anywhere, right?
Ish.
With like
anywhere
connections
with
to
high-speed
big
internet.
broadband, right?
They have to have the utility usage by a data center is incredibly high, and so they have certain
Grid
fiber
requirements.
and grid requirements. They also are typically cooled by water, and so
Mm.
access to
Geothermal.
water is really important to
Are
data
you just
centers.
saying words?
No, I'm wondering like what kind of water? Like water from the
Hydroelectric.
ground?
Water from anywhere.
What kind
anywhere.
of water?
Well, groundwater, like river water, ocean water.
So
Like
there's
there's all sorts of ways to use water.
I'm
to
gonna guess ocean water
There's a
doesn't make
really
the cut
cool
for
company.
data centers.
Yeah, there's a really cool company we work with that they are building data centers on the water. So they're building them like on the oceans or rivers, and then they're pulling from that water to cool off the data centers, and the water
Yeah.
goes back in because the environmental impact of data centers is absolutely
Yeah.
insane. And if people realize that, they probably would actually, question why is our world burning right now? It's data centers.
But we need to not buffer.
We could stream less.
Well, and God forbid, like AI, where is AI taking us? And the increase in AI is going to increase our data center usage and
I mean,
needs and
I've
requirements.
got to write shit. Like,
But then, well, you might not actually have to.
I use for all my articles. I have to pump them into AI.
I know you missed the deadline last month, so I just rewrote one.
Oh, good.
ChatGPT just wrote it.
GPT.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, I sent one after. They didn't tell me I missed it.
Oh, we'll save that for this month. You're
Yeah,
ahead of
that
the
can
game
be
now.
this month's one. Doing one for another one.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
keep them coming on the
Yeah.
deadline, though.
Yeah.
Wow. Data centers, not that interesting.
I think
cool
they're
thing about
interesting.
the cool thing about data centers is it's a really great opportunity for reconfiguration of spaces. So there was a data center that just sold outside of Chicago, which has it's a huge data center market. I think it's a former Sears that they are
Perfect.
converting into a data center. And we always ask, what do we do with all these malls that no one goes
Data
to anymore?
centers?
Data centers.
Why
Stick
don't we
some
just
data centers
build apartments over them?
Over the data centers?
Well, over the
Over the
Because it'd be
Over
hot
walls.
as hell.
Yeah, and data centers have armed security. They're like the most secure
They are.
facilities you can go into. There's literally armed security. You typically won't find them on a Google map because they keep
Yeah.
the site so locked down
Can
and
you give
secure.
them a couple of addresses just to double check?
I got invited to one tour once, and it was the most exciting moment in my life. And then I didn't go because it was like in the middle of nowhere. Like you had to fly somewhere and then drive like 4 hours. And I was like, oh no,
Yeah, that sounds
I'm
terrible.
not doing that.
But the land was probably cheap, and it was
Yeah.
probably not super expensive to build it out.
The build out costs are pretty high.
Because
it's kind
of
of like an
the
industrial
security
shell,
of
but
the
then they
water.
have to, but
to
they
get
have
the
the
water.
pretty
Yeah.
high, yeah.
So where was the water for that place?
No, I don't even know.
This is
I don't ask those
this is what you
questions.
do. You go
Yeah.
down though.
Yeah, we're rabbit hole. Yeah, we're definitely rabbit hole people.
Like he's gonna go
Yeah.
right with this.
I think data centers are cool.
It's a huge concern if you are
I mean-
a proponent of battling climate change.
yeah.
I mean, my car gets 12 miles to the gallon, so I am probably not the
What are
target
you
demographic,
driving? Are
like
you
a
driving
living room.
A tank? You driving a tank around Boston?
Yeah.
And he tries to hit all the bicyclists also.
Oh.
We did have alternate transportation people on, and one of the things that I thought would be a nice benefit for employees was clearly
Bikes?
parking. Like on-site parking, and apparently that promotes car usage.
It does.
It does. Yes.
Yeah, I would love
But also
like,
employees would like that.
I would love it. Like, who wants to be on the subway with all those other people?
Well,
I call
because-
bullshit on that. Because if you this is like a personal issue
Yeah,
of
tell
mine.
us.
Sorry, I got a little triggered there. So Assembly
We
Row.
love a good reel.
Assembly Row is supposed to be this transit-oriented development, right? Like the parking there does not fit the amount of people that.
I think it was when it started, and then they were just like, "Oh, let's put fucking 8,000 more things here."
Yeah, but
Yeah.
there's like you can't drive there because there's no parking.
It's a mess.
But taking public transportation to Assembly is the dumbest thing in the world. I live in Charlestown. It's like less than a mile. I don't go there because it's impossible to get to.
Well, you
And
could
so
park.
they said they were like, well, if you
Should
we
ta-
don't have a
should
ton of
take the
parking,
shuttle,
so
the boat shuttle.
we'll encourage people to take public transportation because
Right.
we're not going to do parking. Everybody just drives there and parks and then just
Yeah.
circles for 45 minutes. I almost missed Barbie because of that shit.
I hate to see, you'd hate to see that.
Wow.
Yeah.
There was no spots in the garage?
No.
Oh. They
Or
need
like
a
to
bigger
get,
garage.
To get in the garage, it takes 20
It
minutes.
does take 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It's a
Forever.
that's a
It's
very
terrible.
difficult site.
I apologize, Assembly Row. I do go there more than
Do
I
you
should.
take the boat to the Encore?
No.
Oh,
You can
I
do
think
that.
they have
It's like-
boats.
yeah, I
Wait,
see them
are
all the
you
time.
Taking the boat to the Encore?
I would love
Are
to,
you
but
going to the Encore?
I love the Encore.
You guys
Oh,
there?
God.
Yeah. I think we're going on Saturday.
I'm definitely not going.
All
I
right.
want to take the boat just because it's free, right? You can take the boat for free.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's a
Is-
Hinkley picnic boat too, isn't it?
It's a pretty nice boat.
Yeah.
What are you going to the
Do they
Encore
serve
for?
cocktails on the boat?
Probably.
I bet if you
Mm.
ask nice, they might.
I bet you could bring your own.
Yeah,
Maybe-
I bet they
maybe
would
I'll do
not
that.
care.
Yeah.
Like
They
if you
definitely
went
would
to-
pick you up.
I bet I could take it home from work downtown to Everett and then just walk home from the casino. That's like a 10-minute
You
walk.
probably
for me.
could, yeah.
Oh, you definitely
that might be
could.
my new
They're,
commute.
they're supposed to put a pedestrian bridge between Assembly and the casino. I don't know.
Oh,
if
yeah?
they, I don't know if they have yet.
Well, aren't they building a new soccer field there for the
That's the
Rebs?
rumor.
Yeah.
I personally enjoy hearing the industrial
Aren't you
work
glad
all
you came
night.
on?
Like, where is this going?
Nowhere.
That's a
Nowhere.
commercial real
It's
estate.
nowhere.
It is a commercial
it
estate.
not?
We,
It
Is-
is.
we
It
actually
is.
have a sports and entertainment vertical
We
at
do.
Cushman
Ooh,
Wakefield.
Tell me more about
Um,
that vertical. Do you partake in that?
Let's talk about all your verticals.
Yeah.
I work with our sports and entertainment experts as well. It's an interesting part of the business. I think that we saw a lot during the pandemic around, so sports and entertainment worked a lot with universities, right? Because typically on a university campus, that field, like whatever athletic field, super into sports, is funded different from the university's funding. And so when universities were trying to figure out what to do and how to make money up for that lack of tuition, everyone was like, well, just look at that building, like look at that stadium, like get rid of that, right? And that's not actually feasible because they're different revenue streams. They're typically funded through alumni fundraising and all that type of stuff, right?
Are they owned by different entities?
It depends on the university.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I totally lost my train of thought
Yeah.
because I don't know what I was
Revenue
saying.
streams, different revenue streams.
Yeah. So anyways,
Yeah.
so during the pandemic, our teams worked a lot with the universities and campuses to look and see what they had on campuses. And it's fascinating. They actually have data centers on some university campuses. So how do you sell your data center?
I mean,
How
the
do you
rabbit
take
holes all
land?
come together.
Yes, it does. It is. It's a really interesting way that, that's why commercial real estate or Cushman's a full service
it's
real
so
estate. We
interesting.
can do everything.
We can
So,
do everything.
I mean, I'm assuming you weren't brought in by the universities to sell the stadiums. So do you do
No.
like consulting in like use of land or like how to maximize?
So feasibility
You guys are
studies.
so much more broad than I had any idea. I thought you were like a bunch of old white guys hawking office space.
We're trying to change that reputation.
I
Okay.
mean, we are,
Yeah.
but we're trying to change
Yeah.
that.
But it was our feasibility studies that our valuation team does. Essentially, they come in and they look at what's going on. And they help you understand the value that you could have on your campus and figure out what to do as the
Right.
next step. So we did that for a couple different universities.
And you can really gouge the universities too because they have these big endowments. So like they don't care.
they don't pay well.
Oh, they don't?
No.
Small budget.
Oh, bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The way
Because
tuition
you guys
is
are
these
providing
days,
a service.
So
Yeah.
can you actually touch on that a little bit and talk to us about how folks in the commercial real estate industry get paid?
Yeah.
I think our listeners,
Yeah.
we have a lot of like investment talk from time to time, so I think that'd be cool to hear about. And so I know very little about it, obviously, other than an actual regular like residential sale. But there's a lot of different ways that commercial brokers can get paid, and I think different lease
They
strategies.
just don't
and sales
get like
strategies.
a commission.
No, I think
Oh.
there's many ways you can skin that cat.
Yeah.
Percentage of revenue.
Frost that cake.
Yeah, so typically our brokers are paid commissions, 100% commissions, which is why you see levels of success defined by that person, right? It's essentially you make how much you put into it. So we have people who buy new boats every single year, and we
Yep.
have people who will never buy a boat. They hate that when I say that.
But it's true.
I love it.
But
Why?
It's commission. It's uncapped income. You can.
Yeah.
You want to go make millions? Go make millions.
Yeah.
You better show up to the office. You know,
Yeah.
Well, that actually is true.
yeah, or be available and be engaged and know what you're doing. Right. You can't just go get your nails done all the time and hope the deals fall in your lap, especially in that business.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So our tenant rep brokers are paid by the landlord. So that's actually so when you are when someone represents you, you don't pay them. The landlord pays a fee, and that goes to the broker, and it's a percentage of the total lifetime of the
Lease.
value of that lease. Yeah. And so you negotiate that with that. Our agency leasing brokers are also paid by the landlords, and capital markets are commissioned as well. Again, a percentage of what the value of that sale is.
So if you have a lease, like obviously is that all upfront, or is that it's on renewal, right?
I think Kelly, do you know this? I don't
know.
know. I think they get paid
We'll just cut this part out.
twice.
If you don't.
Yeah. I think it's
Cut.
Well, my
cut
understanding was like it's to a degree a similar analogy would be like the financial management. It's like it's dollars under management or something, where you want to make sure that lessee is successful, right? And every year they renew or extend. There's potentially hypothetical recurring cash. It all depends on how everything's structured.
Yeah, I don't think it's recurring for occupier brokers. I think they get paid twice. I think it's when they sign the lease, you get your first payment, and then I believe it's occupancy date.
Usually.
Is it occupancy where they get the second payment? And so it's the total value of that, however many years, 7, 10 years, whatever it looks like. So it's a percentage of that.
And I think what's interesting about commercial real estate is that, you know, we have brokers who've worked on things for 5 or 6 years without getting paid.
I bet.
Like they're literally working with a company that's doing ground up, and you're not getting paid until they're in there. And a lot of folks come into this industry and see big dollars.
Yeah. Same.
And I would say I look at some of our top young brokers, and I would never want to be them because that's all they think about.
Yeah.
And it's stressful. I mean, we had a broker who he had a great year last year, and he was already thinking about how am I going to do this? I mean, and he loves it.
Yeah, you start over day one of
the next year, you're starting over. So he's already building his pipeline.
Theoretically, you start over day one every day.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, in that 10 year you invested in that relationship, that's one transaction.
That's
that
one
was
transaction.
10 years. So like, let's break it down by, you know, how much you got paid per hour.
Right.
And these are like relationship building, like
for sure.
getting to know the facilities person and the head of HR and holding hands and holy shit, this just fell apart and now I've got to rebuild it. And then this person
or someone
left.
Gets fired.
Or someone gets fired. So, you know, it's not for the faint of heart, and you've got to have some sharp elbows to be in this world.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't hold them up on a pedestal, but I will tell you, the really successful ones work their asses off, and they have given up
everything.
And I think that even over the past few years with COVID, I think that people have been incredibly creative in how to support their clients through this time. And, you know, if you're not making money, how do you pay your bills? And so I do think that it is an incredibly hard job, and there are some really, really smart people in the business who have been very successful.
And we're seeing that now, that the ones who really understood that kind of connection are the ones that thrived during COVID because their clients stuck with them. And they were like, you wanted to partner with us through a hard time. You didn't just walk away. We've seen other brokers who are like, man, they're not going to do anything, you know, and then they lose someone, right? So it's a real connection business. It's a lot of work.
I do actually think it's an interesting conversation about commercial real estate, because I think that I didn't know what commercial real estate was when I got into it. I literally had absolutely no clue.
How did you get into it?
I needed a job. And a recruiter found me. And I remember the pitch was I was going to be a marketing assistant to eventually become a junior broker. And her example was the person who had this job before me had just bought a brand new Jeep Grand Cherokee with her commissions that she got as a marketing associate or marketing assistant. I was like, hell
fancy.
Yeah, I need a car. Did not result that way for me. But I think that the amount of different career paths that in commercial real estate are really fascinating. And I think that Kelly and I get to work with all these people across the board. So working with brokers who, you know, very risky. We're fully salaried corporate roles. You can kind of define your career path. And as you learn things, you can say, okay, that's actually what I really like. And that's where I'm going to focus my time. And then we think about how do you help those people be successful in those roles?
Yeah. And that's what's fun about it is you can be in this business and you can come up with an idea and people are like, all right, let's see if it works. And
Right.
and you actually get credit for that.
Yeah, that's
so
cool.
It's not like, oh, that idea didn't work. It's like, well, it didn't work, but it got us attention for something. So you get a lot of credit for being able to step up to the plate and be willing to take a risk. Where when you were at Best Buy and I was at TD Bank, taking a risk wasn't what we were encouraged to do. Right?
Right.
And a
That
great
wasn't the
example
thing.
is this. Did you guys ever hear of the 6 foot office at the beginning of the pandemic?
6
No.
foot office.
6 foot office. 6 foot office was, what office did that come out of? Our Denmark
office. Yeah. They're very creative.
Yeah,
they're
I
fascinating.
I think they're trained architects in that office, but they
They
came
are.
up with this 6 foot office that essentially was to get people back into the office. You should stay 6 feet away from each other,
Oh yeah.
and that will keep it
because
safe.
it's not
Yeah.
like we're
Yeah.
all breathing the same
Right.
air anyway.
Well, and the HEPA
We're just
filters.
gonna ignore
Right.
that
Yeah,
part.
but it was actually really interesting. They came out with this. They tested it in their office. They put all these like decals on the floor, like changed the traffic patterns in the office so you all
Right.
walked the same way. And I think we were the first of the big 3 firms to come out and say something and actually provide a perspective. Our CEO at the time got a ton of press, was on the news every day for like a month about it. But it was a really cool thing to see that this one person had this idea, took it to his office, talked about it, did it, and then it was incredibly well received. And however many years later, like that might not matter anymore. But it was just the idea that this person was able to do that and lead that conversation for an entire 50,000 person global organization and
Yeah.
make that impact.
And we actually were rolling it out to small companies, and I
Yeah.
mean small companies like companies of 10 people, all the way up to 100,000 people. It was really fascinating.
How did the 10 people companies pay you?
So we actually didn't get paid for that
Oh.
because we served as partners in a time of crisis to talk about what this looks like.
What a great
Yeah.
To
company.
protect the client.
Yeah.
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 Cushman and Wakefield sounds amazing.
It's commercial real estate, so let's not get carried away with that
Oh.
because it is still commercial real estate. But there are a lot of opportunities if you're willing to take a risk and kind of get in the dirt with folks to create something that you're interested in.
Pivoting slightly, who are your top competitors?
CBRE, JLL.
CBREs.
Globally, right?
Globally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have a pretty decent presence in Boston, right?
Yeah.
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 And who's the other one? JLL.
JLL.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're developers too, though,
JLL.
right?
I haven't even heard about them.
Well, I love to hear that.
Yeah,
Who the
Jones Lang
hell
LaSalle?
are they?
They've been around for a long time.
Who?
Jones Lang
Jones Lang
LaSalle.
LaSalle, yeah.
Yeah, JLL. Yeah.
Never heard of them.
Yeah, I mean, you really would, if you're not in commercial real estate, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
It's not.
What about Hunneman?
Hunneman Commercial?
Yeah.
NAI Hunneman?
Yeah.
They're still out there, man.
I know they are.
Still out there.
Doesn't sound
Stuart
like they're
Pratt.
a good competitor.
I from the global perspective, I only look at the big 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not. They wouldn't be a global. I mean, I will say they're very
They're
active.
big in Boston.
They're very active in Boston, and they've had some long-term brokers there who are quite successful. And Stuart Pratt still owns it, I believe.
Oh, wow.
I think Stuart is still there.
I think I did hear that.
Yeah, we're not going to go down that path.
No, that's a rabbit hole.
That's a rabbit hole. We
Rabbit
cannot-
hole.
and then we would get in trouble.
Yeah, we stay away from
Wow.
those rabbit holes.
Yeah. Rat hole.
Sidetrack.
There's definitely an inside
Yeah.
joke.
There
happening
is,
over
and
I
we
don't know
can't
what's
go
going on
there
over
because
there.
I don't know
I
who
don't
would
know.
hear us. And
6 of our listeners would be very, very offended by that. All 6 of them.
all 6 of them.
Yeah.
You want to close this out?
Are we there?
I think we're there.
We're there.
Is there
All
anything
right.
you guys want to talk about? I know we talked so much about Whitney Houston and her
So
bathtub
actually,
accidents.
there is something I'd like to bring
Yeah,
up,
let's hit
Oh,
it.
yeah.
and it's going to be about neurodiversity.
What is that?
Neurodiversity.
Neurodiversity. And Jessica knows about this because she's had.
Is
to
this a
live with
Cushman
this.
and Wakefield initiative?
It is
Okay,
actually
'cause I've never heard of it.
Neurodiversity isn't.
Okay.
But so neurodiversity for a long time was really what we would think of folks who might be on the autism spectrum. Like they were considered neurodiverse, right? You work differently, you think differently, you live differently, right? But what we've done now is looked at that to say folks who are struggling with depression, ADHD, OCD, all of these kinds of things. But what's interesting about neurodiversity is it can come at any point in your life. So you might be born with neurodiversity. We have a friend who was in, the Boston Marathon bombing and had a head injury, and they are neurodiverse. They had to relearn how to learn.
Wow.
Folks who have migraines, neurodiverse. women going through menopause, neurodiverse. And now what we're starting to see is companies leaning into designing spaces to support neurodiversity. So having an active recharge space where you can go and throw a football around with someone, or having a passive recharge space where it might just be you're getting a lot of sunlight in because that might support you if you have migraines. And it's interesting that we have companies are leaning into those kinds of spaces about how can we have this be more comfortable when folks come in.
And is this something they come to you and say, I am dying to make my space more neurodiverse?
Yes.
Or is this something that your brokers are saying,
Are they really
we
coming?
happen to have somebody that could help you become more attractive to your neurodiverse 23-year-olds?
Both.
I think people
Okay.
just want, like, office space is just perpetually boring,
Yes.
right? So, like, the
You're
fact,
there to work.
the concept in theory that I have
But it's
to
different now.
leave my house, put on a certain attire, go somewhere to sit at a different computer than what I have at home, even though it's the same.
Where you are getting
Log
paid
in.
significantly to have your ass show up and do
Listen.
what it is they are paying you.
I think we have a
do.
mandate supporter here.
I know, we do have a
no, I
mandate
think-
supporter there.
I think well, to be clear, everyone works here Monday through Friday in the office. That being said, like I had already mentioned, at the end of the day, we're paying them to get the work done.
Done. Yes.
Not physically be present.
Yes.
Right. So I am culturally, I want people here because, like you, I get small conversations, quick huddles. If people have quick questions, it's easier than Slack, which is what we use, like, or Teams, whatever, right? Like, for me, I've been a retail guy for 20 years. It's what I like. It's what I crave.
Right.
That's me.
Yeah.
So luckily, I guess my company, I'm going to create that culture that supports me and what I like. That being said, the concept of going to the office outside of culture is very silly. So conceptually, I would just much rather it have a bunch of cool shit,
Yeah.
like free lunch, a gym. The sunlight thing that you talked about was pretty cool. Whatever that is.
If you think about office space historically, like I go to the office and I'm always cold.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what office I go
Why
to,
is
what
it
it
so
comes
cold?
because the temperature based for office space is based on I don't know, 55-year-old
It's in a data-
white.
it's in a data center.
But it's based on someone who's different than me, right? And so
Right.
when you go into the office, it's built for someone who's not me. And so having spaces where you go and you feel comfortable and welcome while also getting the work done, I think it's really important. It entices you to come back in, because why would you want to go somewhere when you can do something at home that's going to make you feel like you don't belong?
Right. And it's about having that conversation with employees that's very direct about this is how we use this kind of space and we developed it for this reason.
So we are having this space in our new office.
Yeah, we're moving.
Where are you
September.
moving?
125 high, 24th floor.
Near Cane's Donuts.
Right next door to
Yeah.
it. Yes.
It's across the street from where we currently are.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
not
okay.
that far. It's not
Yeah.
a big lift.
Yeah.
What town is this?
Boston.
Financial District.
So what you're saying is the fact that Kim has to sit up the front and wrapped in that blanket is a problem,
Yes.
Yes.
but she's not neurodiverse because of it.
Well, that's not about neurodiversity. That's just about temperature.
I was just trying to make a bad joke.
But you know what? You did say something that's interesting, which is for you, the way you envision culture is that everybody's coming in.
Right.
We get a lot of CEOs and presidents who say that. Like, this
Yeah.
is what I see culture as.
Yeah.
But how do I actually define it? And the answer is you don't get to really define the culture like the way folks work do.
Yeah.
That part of it,
Yeah.
and then you figure out how to support that. And
She's
make
coming for you.
and
She's
support
coming for
it's-
you to work
it's
on
a-
your culture.
productive.
It's okay. Well, we can do a survey. It'll be fine.
I advise
No,
against the survey.
I know,
you
of course you do, because
Yeah,
then they're going to
because-
say something,
Right,
and you're
they're
going to be
gonna
like,
answer.
"We're not going to do that."
No, then you have to respond.
Yes,
like
you
when
do.
you ask questions, you have to respond, or else you're a jerk.
You're a former HR person.
If
Yeah,
if we
that's
both had employee satisfaction indexes, who would score higher?
You.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Without
I
even
just met you
knowing.
both, and I would also agree with that.
For
we
the
haven't even talked
record,
about Michelle Wu yet.
I think that my employees
Yeah,
like
that's
me.
what that-
You think?
I
they
think
like
that
you.
yeah, I think I am. I played up a little on the podcast. I think deep down that I am a great.
You should have them on the podcast.
We should.
A
Ask them
year-end
some
review.
questions.
That
What a
would take
great
them out of their seats.
Take the podcast to them.
I
That's a good idea.
I agree that if I were just describing culture, like these are the indicators or the bullet points of culture, being in person would not be on the list.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's something that equates to like office buzz, for lack of a better word. Like I'll give you an example. So we had a closing Monday morning with one of the agents. So Brendan was here in the morning with that agent and that group of clients. Simultaneously, another agent, at the desk had to hop into one of the privacy pods, take a webinar with a client. I also had another set of clients, and the staff was here. Like there was a nice buzz.
Yeah, there's energy behind that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it gives you something to celebrate.
Right. And like that's cool to see happen.
Yes.
Like we're like, it just feels different.
Yeah.
Very hard to describe like in a checklist what that is like. You know what I mean? It's like there's some intangibles. That's what I really, really want in culture. Obviously that's happening. It's just happening like in the internet and you don't see it as much, right?
Yeah.
And so therefore there's less opportunity for a good feeling about it. There's less opportunity for recognition behind it.
Yes.
And I think to your point, energy, professionalism, whatever it is, like it feels like a super productive day. It fills your cup a little bit.
It does.
That I think it's much harder to do in the internet.
My role before the pandemic was an America's role, and so I would be on conference calls all day, and literally like just your phone on speaker. And so for me, the pandemic was really impactful because it went from speaker phone calls to actually being on a camera all day, which was game changing. But I still go into the office. I mean, I don't work on a day-to-day basis with anyone in the Boston office, but I go in 2 to 3 days a week because of that refilling your cup, right? Mm-hmm. And getting that energy that is hard to find sometimes from a virtual
Well, and it's hard to build camaraderie and the
100%.
politics and the sort of mentorship on Zoom, right? Like when you log into a Zoom and there are 30 other people there, you're not like, hey, how's Harper and how's this
Right.
and
You're
how's
not
that?
having that
you
conversation.
just sit there and you're like, all right, when's it gonna start? And like
don't be the guy at the end and be like, I actually have a question.
Right.
Yeah,
Never
because
be
everyone
that guy.
wants to
Never be
die
that
and
guy.
get off.
I find that the best way to stop hating someone you work with is to meet them in person and talk to them.
That's actually true.
It's wild. It's like a wild statement to make. But
Yeah.
if you meet someone and know them, it changes your perspective, and that changes your then reflection on the company and your job and why you show up every day and all of that.
Yeah. I think we're going to start seeing a shift, especially that we have different age leaders coming in, where providing flexibility will just be the norm. And that is a reason that people want to go in. If they know they have, it's a really interesting thing when we do surveys.
And the free parking.
And the free parking.
Yeah.
The youngest generation will say, I just want it to be flexible. That's like, I just want flexibility. I'll come in. I just don't want you to tell me to come in 5 days a week for 9 to 10 hours a day.
Right. Well, and Kelly, we didn't even touch on the impact that flexible workplace has on women and women's career trajectory and the wage gap and all of that type of stuff when women have more flexibility.
And the sandwich generation of taking care of children and taking care of parents and, In fact, we're doing a piece with AARP. We just did a piece with AARP on that earlier this month. We're doing another segment with them talking about, how are you a caregiver and a working professional at the same time. It's really interesting.
And do they ask men that question?
They do.
Or just women?
Nope.
Okay.
They ask men that as well.
I mean, they only ask women, how do you manage to be a working mom? That's the only question that women get asked.
Yeah. So in our world,
so we shouldn't ask that. That's not a good question.
It's not.
I have a great answer for that.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
You don't want her.
I was
answer
like, I
to that.
so want to hear the answer to that.
Just for the
but note to self,
just
like
for the sake of antagonizing. Do you want to expand?
No, because no one should ever ask that question. It's bullshit. No one asks men, how do you manage having a job and having a family? Like, come on.
Yeah.
That's dumb.
It is dumb. And what's interesting,
it's lazy. It's lazy is what it is.
It is lazy.
It's lazy.
Why is it lazy?
Because you can't think of anything else to ask. Like
a woman.
Gotcha.
You're defining a woman's success by her ability to manage both at the same time, and that's never going to be. That's never going to be true. You never actually have work-life balance ever.
No one does.
No one does.
No one does. I mean,
we
anyone
have-
who, well,
We have
some
plenty
people
of,
do.
We have plenty of dads in our office who are incredibly hands-on.
Mm-hmm.
They're hands-on. They're leaving to go pick up their kids,
Yeah.
bring them there. I mean, someone's got a sick kid.
Not
you
at
know.
Brendan's office.
And
He makes
also-
it
No,
clear.
all the men in our office are very involved in their
No, I
children's
meant you
lives.
don't let them leave.
I let everybody leave. We have no like we just have like you take whatever time you want. There's no like you have 4 hours
Unlimited
of paid
PTO.
Yeah, we have unlimited PTO. We do like
That's a
weekly
scam.
lunches.
But even people who don't
have
have
it too.
people who
It's a
don't have
scam.
kids doesn't mean they have better work-life balance, right? And I think
Right,
that's
it
also
doesn't.
a huge
I don't have
misconception
kids,
that-
and I'm in the
Yeah.
office on Saturdays at 2:00,
Yeah.
and Seth is yelling at me saying, "Why are you there?"
yeah,
Right? Like
Yeah.
I
That's
don't
true.
think it matters
right.
whether you have a family. I don't
Which is
think
why
it's
that question to
lazy.
me
I
is
think it's
so-
misogynist.
That's why. Well, yes, that's
Yes,
like it
that's
assumes that a
thank
woman
you.
can't have
Right.
a job and a family.
Yes, it does.
yes,
Yes.
great.
That was a fun rabbit hole. For me.
Yeah.
I mean, listen,
I've got hours on that one.
We've had folks that we know of who have been like, we don't want to hire women out of a certain age because you know what they're going to do, get married and
Oh
then
man,
have kids.
God forbid
and
you're
then,
a engaged young
Oh,
woman
God.
trying to apply for a job.
Yeah,
and
they're not going to move you up the ladder. I mean, that's like a real thing that
Oh,
we've run into.
a
And then
problem.
we've run into others who are like, yeah, I want that because that person can like multitask like nobody's business. Like
I was
they're
going to say
going to
they
get some
work
shit
all the
done.
time
Yeah.
because they don't
Yeah.
have anyone to go home to. I like single people. Single.
Okay. You are a problem
God, he's a,
in workplace.
I don't have any
He's a
of
work-
them,
he
but
is-
like I want like
he's a workplace
yeah.
problem. Yeah.
Oh, he's a workplace.
No, I'm very good at. I don't
Can we ask
expect
Brendan
other
more questions?
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
expect
Let's
other
flip the script
people.
on this.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't expect or anticipate that anybody else is going to look at things the way I do, and I don't
Fair.
expect anybody to work as hard as me.
Right.
I don't expect anybody to be there when I'm there. I don't expect my ridiculousness is my own, and that
Right.
I don't import on anybody else.
That's
right?
good.
Like. And I've made that clear to everybody. Like that you do your own situation as long as you're meeting our clients' needs and you're
Yeah.
doing what you need to do. Like we're pretty flexible.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's
I am a crazy person, but
It's wild that you
You
treat
are
your
a
employees
crazy
like they're adults.
yeah.
Imagine
know.
that.
With
Imagine
feelings
that.
and
Yeah.
thoughts.
I even ask as much as I lack empathy, I bring it on and I pretend that I have some.
I
and
know.
I
You're
ask,
good at that.
Yeah,
But we all know you're faking it.
I mean,
We do know.
But we love you
yeah,
anyway.
Yeah. I
That's
mean,
true.
I'm not always
Seth
faking it.
is
Like
like, I'm
sometimes
done
I
with this
actually
conversation.
care. Yeah. Well, I'm impressed at how much Cushman and Wakefield does that I didn't realize, and
you
I'm
guys-
also
Do you guys call it CW?
CW.
Yes,
Yeah.
we do.
Nice.
I am I'm really blown away. Like I think it's really cool, and I think that I love one of the things I love about this podcast is we get to learn from other people about what is going on in the world and what they're doing, and it's a great, selfishly for us, like we get to learn a ton of stuff, and I learned so much today.
Good.
So thank you both for.
I agree.
Yeah.
Thanks for
I
having
learned
Thanks
a
for
lot
having
about.
us. This was fun.
I learned a lot about Brendan's organization
Yeah.
today
That's a
Yeah.
lot.
Well, we.
and the cultural problems that
Yeah.
exist.
Glassdoor
those
reviews
days.
are going to start popping up
They
on that
are.
one.
I know. Gosh.
It's too bad CW didn't place you guys as
I
tenants.
know.
Maybe
We'll
they
have
would
to
come
retain
in.
them. We're gonna retain them,
Maybe they
and
would
we
come
know.
I can
in.
do a workplace study
That's
with
what I was
you.
gonna say. That'd be really special.
I
Can I
think
do
that.
a focus group?
Yeah, I think
Your
we'll have a
focus?
focus group,
Yeah.
and we're gonna
And a survey.
and a survey,
Oh my
and we're
God,
gonna
you
read
would
the
love
survey
that.
results, and then we're gonna address them.
Is it what's
Oh.
what's the survey company?
Survey Monkey.
No.
Oh,
Qualtrics.
That's nobody knows Qualtrics outside
Everybody
of the
knows
industry.
Qualtrics.
No,
No?
what's
Really?
the what's like the
This is
quintessential?
like when you said
Yes.
I
Gallup. We're
when
gonna
I
do
was-
a Gallup
when I
poll.
was just
Yes.
doing Americas. I'm like
Employee
nobody knows what the
satisfaction
fuck you're
index.
talking about.
I assume everyone knows what I'm
Nobody
talking about all the
no.
time.
You talk more corporate than I do.
What about
Saying
podcast
something.
studios? Is that a big demand in new space?
No.
I think I would imagine that most with it companies have some sort of video content production space, whether that is specifically used.
They have
for podcasts.
abilities. They don't always have the space, but they.
Yeah.
But you know what? People can also figure out how to make the space. Like they can.
Yeah.
We
use
even
it
had them at Coldwell Banker
I know.
years ago.
years ago.
Nobody
Yeah.
used them then either.
That was a
They did. That was a big department.
That was
the
a big
videography
Wow.
department.
still there. You know.
Yeah, it
I
is.
think so.
Are there people
Wow.
still in it?
I don't know.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah. So I don't know if Kelly told you, but the name of the podcast is The Word. So one of the things we like to ask all of our guests is if you were to look at your next 12 months and boil it down to one word, what would that word be?
Kelly, you can go first on that.
Wow.
That's like a big.
I think
I
yours
know.
should be neurodiversity.
I think you
No.
should have prepped me for that one, Kelly.
I did.
Oh,
I sent you
I
that.
don't read my emails. I
Okay.
apologize.
You need an assistant to read your emails.
You do.
She actually does.
Hey,
make
I
this
can do
system.
that for you probably.
Yeah.
I would say creativity.
Ooh.
Ooh, tell us more.
We need to learn to get creative in how we're working with clients and how we're working within space and what does it mean to work. We need to get creative with that because it's not, people aren't looking at things linear anymore. It looks very different to all kinds of people, and they've had an opportunity to sort of spread out and expand their wings and how they're going to work and what that means for them. So you need to get used to that as a boss.
Yeah.
But also, I would say within the industry, getting creative and to understand what clients actually need. Not like what we're telling them they need, but what do they actually need? Do they need a DEI resource, or do they need something more, tangible within like office design? Sometimes you don't know until you have the conversation, and you need to be able to pivot and be creative with them.
I love it.
I'm probably just going to steal that, but like a different word. I would say adaptive.
Mm.
I think that over the next 12
Nimble.
months, it's going to be being able to respond quickly to changes in what we're seeing and how we provide solutions to our clients. But part of my role is also focused on our internal organization and how we support our fee earners, our folks like Kelly, to put them in a place to be successful. And I think that being adaptive to what we're seeing and open to changing is going to be really important.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much. And thank you to CW for allowing you guys to come out here this afternoon. And as we said earlier, the opinions expressed here are the individual's opinions and not that of Cushman and Wakefield.
Thank you, Brendan.
Yes.
I hope you guys had an amazing time.
Yeah.
It was super
This was fun.
Yeah,
This
it
was
very
super fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We just like to keep it real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.